Welcome to the Ascend Your Success podcast. Whether you're just starting out or are a veteran looking to grow your business, you're in the right place. Join us to learn how to achieve financial freedom while working and living life on your own terms. Hear valuable insights, strategies, and interviews with successful entrepreneurs. Get ready to achieve the success you've always dreamed of. Ready? Let's go.
What's going on, guys? My name is Wyatt Reed, and this is my partner, Jacob Ninan, and this is the Ascend Your Success podcast. And today, we're going to continue with our series, How to Get Started in Real Estate Investing. And this episode, we're going to be talking about funding. I think it's pretty funny how a lot of times when we're talking about using other people's money, it just people who don't know are like, it's such a scam, you can't do that, like this, that, and the other. And we are literally doing that on every deal we do for the last 6 years. We've done that.
Yeah, I think that's probably the first thing that people try to isolate as a scam is how can you buy real estate without using your own money? And I get it. I mean, that does sound to the untrained mind or the folks not doing this, that makes a lot of sense. Like, how do you buy something without having your own money? Definitely the first mind shift I think we have to encounter with real estate investing.
Yeah, so essentially we've talked about, before we get started, we've talked about free leads, paid leads, how to communicate, sales. We've talked about different strategies, wholesaling, flipping, seller financing, rentals, things like that. And we've talked about how to run numbers. And now that we have the deal and we know what we're going to do with it, we need to talk about the funding, because I think another thing that I see a lot is that people are so worried about the money when they don't even have a deal, right? And I see these two different spectrums of people who say, go find the money first. And then I see other people saying, go find the deal first. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I've been in situations where I can tell you this much. It's no fun having a deal and not knowing how you're going to fund it. It's also not fun having money or the access to capital and not being able to find a deal. Personally, I think the most important part is finding the deal first, especially if you're in a community like ours, because we kind of take the guesswork out of the funding. Like, if you actually have a deal, you come to us with it, we help you, we look at it, we underwrite it with you, and everything checks out and we know you have a deal. The next step is rather easy, because most lenders, depending on what kind of financing you use, but most lenders in the real estate investing space, they more so look at the asset, the deal itself, because that's where all their security is going to be. But not to go into that, that's a topic for later. But yeah, personally, I think finding the deal is probably the best thing to focus on, because when you're focusing on finding the deals, you're taking repetitions, making offers, and that kind of stuff, and that's the kind of stuff you need to be doing anyway.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little biased because, we have the coaching program, we have the resources for people to utilize. I guess I don't think about it the other way as much because it's already there. So, for example, like when I first started in real estate, I hired a mentor and I used his hard money guy for years, and we still have a good relationship, good connection. We still pass business back and forth to each other, but yeah, I mean, I used him for a long time, and before I even had a deal, I guess I did go at it after the money first a little bit, too, because like when I got into the program, I was like, I was asking the same questions that all the new people ask us, like, where am I going to get the money? How am I going to do this? If I find a deal, how am I going to do this? And so he connected me with this guy, and I called him. I probably called him every other week. Even though I didn't have a deal, I was like, hey, I just want to remind you I'm here. I'm going to have my first deal pretty soon. Like, do you have money set aside for me? Yeah.
I would say 99% of the time, though, when you call, like, that's fine. And I understand from the mindset of you just want to make sure they're ready for you. But if you call a lender and, someone that does this on a regular basis, they're eventually going to say, hey, man, when you get a deal, give me a call. Let's not play hypotheticals here. Like, let's make sure your deal, you're going to actually have something worth my time or worthy of funding. So, but on the other side of that, I've been there too. Like when you're first trying to get your first deal, trying to secure funding, you're sitting here wondering, are they going to have the money when I'm ready? Like, am I going to lock this thing up under contract and told someone I could buy their house and then I don't have access to capital? So all that runs through your mind. But that's kind of what happens when you're solo and you're trying to do this on your own without a community backing you with all the resources. So Yeah, it wasn't fun in the beginning doing that. And, once I hired mentors and stuff like that, yeah, the Rolodex, so to speak, opened up, and now it went from me trying to track everything down to simply just picking what was the best option for me.
Right. So I think we put the cart before the horse. Like we
We
tend to
always
do
do.
because so anyways, I think we need to back up a little bit. So when we're talking about real estate funding, I would say the most common for people who don't just go straight to the bank. I mean, you've got traditional bank lending and stuff like that where you can go put 20% down with a bank and finance it through the bank. That's fine, but not everybody has 20% down to do multiple properties, right?
Mhm.
And so we use what we call hard money and private money. So explain what that is. Like, what does that even mean? Hard money, private money? Are these guys going to like break my shins if I don't get them the money back?
Yeah, so obviously private money is kind of what it says. It's a lender who's private. They're not out here necessarily advertising what they do. A lot of times private money lenders are more relational. Like a lot of times they'll come out of your network, friends, family, like coworkers or just individuals that that for whatever reason have sizable amounts of cash or a certain amount of cash sitting on the sidelines, and essentially they're lending to you privately. Obviously, they're going to be protected in the property and all that. We're not going to go too deep into the mechanics of how they're protected, but it's essentially just an individual that's loaning directly to you on a property. Pretty simple. Like I said, they usually come out of your network. Now, depending on how you network, if you're going to real estate meetups, stuff like that, or you're in a community, you might find there are a lot of times you will find individuals like that just through networking. Most private lenders usually start off as friends or family, stuff like that. So hard money it's not really institutional. It's not like going to the bank, but it is more structured. Usually, you're looking at somebody that does this as a business. Like they're literally either have a sizable amount of capital or they're raising capital to then turn around and lend to specific people like real estate investors. I'd say the most common hard money lender is going to be lending on a fix and flip, seller finance, people buying rentals, that type of stuff. So they're doing these short-term loans, but they're more institutional in the fact that it's like this is a company, a business that this is their model. And depending on who you work with, I mean, obviously there's different levels of red tape. Some hard money lenders are not that difficult to work with. I mean, they're rather easy and simple. They just have a few boxes you have to check, and as long as all of it meets their requirements, they're going to lend and do it rather quickly. And there's other hard money lenders that they just require a good bit more. A lot of it has to do with your experience. Have you ever done this before? What kind of collateral do you offer? Some are heavily relying on like what is your credit score, what kind of liquidity you have, and what by liquidity meaning like what kind of cash do you have available? And all that is really just security. Like if I was going to loan you money and I knew you had 50 grand in the bank and you had a decent credit score, I could just assume that you're fiscally responsible, that you're financially, astute. Like you're not this guy that's just going to take my money and run off. Now you could, but most of the time somebody that's sitting on that kind of money and with a good credit score, we're just going to say, okay, they're pretty responsible person. And then you have other lenders that really don't care about any of that. They just look completely at the asset. Like, hey, as long as this is a good deal, if you don't pay me, I'm just going to take the property back. So there's certain measures in place. They're not out there to screw you, but they're just protecting themselves because they're doing it at a much more higher volume. So they just got to make sure that things are in place as they start doing more and more loans.
So the private money is more of an individual, and then the hard money is more of a business. I would say that the business it has like origination fees, regular fees, interest rates, down payment. It has all of that pretty much set, and there's not really any negotiating.
Yeah, there's very little flexibility with a hard money lender.
And then you jump into your individuals. So those guys are people love, trust, and those people are obviously more negotiable. And so, like for example, I utilized the hard money lender for a long time, and eventually I got up to a point to where he was like, "Hey, you got too much out. We need to get some in before we give you any more." I think we were at like 1.3 million out with him at one time, and that was a lot. That was probably 12 or 13 properties. And things were moving, and we were learning how to be more efficient, but we still had properties coming in. And I remember sitting with one of my friends, hanging out, talking about the deal, talking about how I'm going to lose it because I don't have the money. My hard money lender cut me off, and he was essentially like, "Hey, I got $100,000. Like, do you want to use this?"
Yeah.
And once I realized how easy that was, it was off to the races.
Yeah.
Hard money is good. I feel like hard money is good. And it helps you get in. I think at some point you're going to want to learn how to get the money yourself.
Yeah.
Learn how to talk to people about money. If you want a long-term successful business, you're going to have to talk to
Yeah.
people.
Anybody that's doing this for any length of time, I feel like there's a progression. You graduate to private money essentially. But even in my own businesses, we use hard money as a backup. It's not my first option. I'm definitely going to go run through all my private money lenders and see if they might be interested in working with us on whatever projects we have at the time. And then if, for whatever reason, if they're tapped out or they're just not in a position to do it, of course, if it's a good deal, I'm not going to let it pass by because of that. So we'll utilize hard money. So you still need to have those relationships. And there are so many hard money lenders, and they come in all shapes and sizes. It's not a one size fits all type deal. So plenty of options there. And then, of course, the more business you do with them, there does become not so much flexibility, but some kind of preferential treatment, because now they're looking at you as an ongoing client. So after you do so many deals, they might make it a little bit easier. You may not have to send the same document in every single time, that kind of stuff. So it's valuable to both, but I'll definitely say private money is kind of like the golden standard when it comes to lending. If the better you can build those relationships and that network, it's just going to make for smoother deals.
Yeah, it saves you several thousands of dollars.
Saves you a lot of money.
Something we didn't really talk about. I think a lot of the scammy conversation is 100% leverage, right? And so, hard money is normally only going to give you 90% of
Up to
purchase
90%.
and 100% of rehab. So you still have that 10% gap, right? Whereas private money lenders, most of the time, they're going to give you 100% just because, you say, hey, I got a deal and it's this much, and they're going to fund it all, right? So the question then becomes, how I've got 10% that I've got to get put down, and then I've got another probably 3.5% of closing costs that I got to do. And then I got to get the insurance. I got to turn the utilities on. I got to do all this stuff. And I'm not saying that you need to be wrapping all this money up into one loan, because if you got a tight deal, then it's not going to be good, right? But if you have a decent enough deal, you can wrap all of that up into what we call a bridge or gap. Some people call it bridge loan. Some people call it gap. You're essentially just bridging the gap between what you have and what you don't have. And those are normally like second position loans. And that's how we get 100% financing for our deals. We show up to the closing table. We don't bring money. We oftentimes we
Walk
overfund
away,
and get
yeah.
money, right? Or we walk away with keys. And so let's talk about that a little bit, because I think that is more private money too, considered private money, but these are people that only have like $10, $20, $30,000 to give, right?
It's private, and it's also probably more common to find somebody that has, let's just say, 50, 30 grand or less that they could do something with. It's not as common to find people with several $100,000s. I mean, depending on what circles you run in and the network you have, I mean, there's plenty of money out there. But my point is, there's a lot more people we encounter that approach and say, hey, I've got 30, 40, 50 or less $1,000. What can you do with it? So that's where the gap funding kind of comes in. So yeah, if you're going to a hard money lender and they're like, hey, I'll give you 90% of purchase price and you need 10% down, then obviously you're going to the gap lender and getting that 10% so that you're still going to closing with no money out of your own pocket, making money off of someone else's money. Like Wyatt did mention, it is second position, so there is a little bit more risk involved to the lender, but it's still backed by the property. It's just in second position. And if the deal is a good deal, obviously the hard money lender wouldn't even be giving you 90%. So clearly there's room for a 10%. So there's still protection. There's still security in the property for that gap lender. And again, it just kind of opens the door to do 100% deals, because you're going to find a lot more people on your network or who you network with that are going to be able to fund that 10% than you are going to find people that could do 100% plus rehab costs.
And so it doesn't have to be a bridge lender either. You have other traditional routes that you can go and take. you to work with a bank, you've got to have a decent credit score or some decent equity or both, right? But there are some personal ways that you can get money too for these deals. You can get a HELOC on your house if you have enough equity in it on your personal house. You can get a personal line of credit. I know for me, I keep my vehicles paid off, and if I need some quick money for a down payment, or if I need something, quick, then I'll just go to the bank and say, "Hey, I need to throw a $40,000 line of credit on my cars," and within a day, I'll get $40,000 and I can go do what I want. I just hand them the title, and whenever I get these deals done, I'll come back and I'll pay them off, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of creative ways that you can go about it. You can even partner with somebody that's got money. Like, let's say you have $1 million and I'm out here hustling and bringing in deals, but I don't have money. I can partner with you and do deals with you, right? You fund them, I bring them. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get deals funded. You just got to be open and have conversations. Like, people are very scared to ask for money, and it's such a simple conversation.
Well, the reality is if you don't ask, it's a no. And if you do ask, it might be a yes, it might be a no, but it's still a better shot than not asking at all. So, and that's a mindset shift that we all go through. Like, we all, whether it's making offers on houses or asking for money, the answer is always no when you don't shoot your shot. But if you shoot your shot, you got a 50-50 chance of landing it. So yeah, you just got to start having the conversations, and it's not like you just walk around with a t-shirt on saying, "Can I borrow money?"
Right.
But letting people know what you do and having a conversation, and one thing leads to another. Some people are not going to care, and those people I wouldn't even bother talking any further. But then there's going to be other folks that ask you questions, and you just tell them what you're doing. You'd be surprised how many people are sitting on the sidelines or just out there that would love to be a part of it. They just don't know what to do or how to do it. And now here you come along, educating them and letting them know that they essentially can be an investor. And now they're all on board about it. So you just got to have those conversations.
There's a lot of people that are out there that have money. They just don't have the time or the knowledge to do real estate, but they want to. I wanted to do real estate before I even, knew that I was going to do real estate, right? I knew that was something that successful people did, but I didn't have the time or the knowledge or anything like that. So there are a lot of people out there that have capital that are in the same situation, right? A lot of the money that we've raised has been from people that we know, love, and trust, and then them referring us to people that they know, love, and trust. And we go and we sit down and we have nice dinners and we tell them how we can make them money, and it's not anything complicated. So I would say that your job as a real estate investor is to continuously be looking for deals and continuously be looking for money. Those are the two. That's the backbone of your real estate business.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, hey, if you heard something that you were like, "Man, I need to learn how to do this. I need to learn what to say. I just need some hard money or resources for hard money or private money," go to ascendyoursuccess.com and book a call with us. You will be talking to me and Jacob. We don't have VAs or anything like that that's going to take your calls. You'll be talking directly to us. We'll help you put together a plan, and maybe we can work together, maybe we can't, but we'll see you guys on the next one.
Take care, guys.